a couple different versions of, your debt to income ratios. How do you calculate that? And so it's a great tool for you to be able to kind of go back through and kind of practice with your own situation.
Absolutely. Perfect. So we are actually live on the Wise Guys and Ties YouTube channel now. So we're probably going to wait just a bit and we'll have some people populate in here any minute. But for those of you that are here on the YouTube channel, real quick, if we go back, I can't go back because then we go into all of those tax slides. But can you reiterate about the net to debt income ratio? So the big thing that I think the big takeaway from that slide is that the DTI calculation that the bank uses only looks at your fixed income and they divide that by your gross income. So your fixed expenses, divided by your gross income. And that yields a very low debt to income ratio.
Mm-hmm.
But when you actually look at what is your realistic, what we call it your living DTI, what do you actually live out every day of your life? Well, you don't live off of your gross income, you live off of your net income. And you don't calculate just your fixed expenses, you always have to calculate your total expenses. And so when you take your total expenses and you divide it by your net income, you come up with what is your living DTI. And that is always going to be a higher percentage rate than what the bank would calculate for your DTI. And then the last thing that we kind of looked at is if we were in that case looking to pick up a new loan to get a rental property, we have to add in to our total expenses what that monthly cost of the new loan would be. And then that kicked our income up to, we were almost at 100% debt to income ratio. And that's really never a place you want to be at because there's no room for error. And, honestly, what does that mean for people when their debt to income, you see, people go in thinking, hey, look, I want to try to improve my financial situation,
Mm-hmm.
right? I wanted to get this rental property, or maybe we wanted to move into this house. And this is going to be a great deal for us. And then the bank told us that we qualified. So we thought, yes, let's do it. And then all of a sudden, because people didn't really think about what that would do to their actual DTI, they find themselves in a situation where we're running out of money before the end of the month.
Oh, yeah.
And there's all these extra expenses that have come up that we didn't quite, account for. And so what do? Well, you start working overtime. You get an extra job just to pay for this new loan that you got. And then you're spending less time with your spouse. You're spending less time with your kids. And you're fighting over money. And there's stress and there's tension. And people are on the brink. But was it really their fault? In one respect, you could say, yeah, it was their fault. They weren't their own financial advisor. But in another situation, you would think, I went to the bank and I thought the bank would be at least a good financial advisor, right? And so people made their decisions based off of what the bank said. And people need to realize that the bank is in business and they look after themselves. They're in business to make money. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you need to learn how to calculate your own debt to income ratio so that when you evaluate future loans that you go into, you can really figure out if you can actually afford it. So hopefully that made some sense to you. If it doesn't, then try watching this video in reverse, and then maybe it'll make sense that way. But let's go ahead and get into our case study. I am super excited about this case study. This case study is, it's really good because, we haven't actually talked in a few weeks about paying off home mortgages. The last few examples, the people haven't had home mortgages that needed to pay off. So here's what we need to do. I need to share my screen.
And if this is your first time seeing this, the case study is really where the rubber meets the road. This is average everyday people and their situation, and we all get to work on it right here.
Yeah, and this is where for the last hour or so, I've been training, and now what we want to see happen here is we want people to really start participating. So this is where I need you to get into the chat screen and start typing, because Each and every week, we work on a different aspect of the credit banking strategy to help us eliminate our debts. And everybody that's here, that's a part of this webinar, that's here with us, you are here to participate in this mastermind, to ask questions, to present ideas. So let's go. Let me give you the scenario, and then it's time to mastermind. And we'll do that for about the next 10, 15 minutes or so. And then we'll call it a night. It's going to be fun. Okay, so what we have is we have $6,410 of income with $4,300 of expenses. Available credit of $25,000 with carrying a balance of $700. An interest rate on these credit cards of 21%. We have the loan amount of a home. And you know what? I want to make sure that you guys can see what I'm saying, because it looks big enough on my screen, but it might not look big enough on your screen. And so if you're like, oh, I can't see it, it's so small, maybe that looks a little bit better. So what about this, folks? If you're looking at looking at this, we're talking about the loan amount, the home mortgage. It was the original value was $370,000, and this loan started basically this month, June 1st, right? So it was, I think it was refinanced actually. So if I remember the story correctly, it was refinanced. And so what was currently owed at the time of refinancing was $360,776.20. All right. And so that amount was refinanced at 2.875%. And the monthly payment on that mortgage is $1,975. So breaking down the income, the expenses, the debt expenses, the living expenses, and then there's a mortgage here. And so we have the amount of the mortgage. There's an auto loan here, and then the payment here, and then there's a personal loan of $14,000. This is a 5-year personal loan. So here's that's the situation. You see a couple of things here. You see cash flow, you see utilization, you see this DE. This stands for debt efficiency. Utilization is how indebted, what's your indebtedness? How much of your lines of credit are you using? Cash flow, how much positive monthly cash flow have we created? So now I open it up to you folks. Your goal is, let's get this person out of debt as quickly as possible, and go. All right, Raul says cash flow is $2,110, and the credit line utilization's at 2.8%. Both of those are correct. So so we know what our starting cash flow is, $2,110. Our utilization, just round up, we're at about 3% right there. So why is that important? Because if our utilization is over 50%, then we've got to be very careful in how we use our credit cards. But this is actually the ideal situation you want to see, right? You want credit cards that are being used every month, carrying over somewhere between a 1% to 3% utilization. You want to keep some activity on those cards. So this person has good credit management.
And for somebody that's like, wait, where did the cash flow come from? How did Raul know that? You just take the income, you subtract the expenses, and then boom.
That's where our cash flow came from. Boom. There you go. And so utilization was calculated by taking the $700 and we divided that by the total amount in our credit line, right? And that equaled 3%.
How much of your available credit you are utilizing?
Yep. 3%. That's rounded up. It's 2.8 exactly. All right. So we know our utilization. Now, if we're going to eliminate our debt, which debt should we eliminate first? Do we eliminate the largest debt? Do we eliminate the debt with the highest interest rate, or do we eliminate the debt with the highest monthly payment? How do we know which debt to try to eliminate first?
That's a great question.
I know, I'm really good at asking questions, aren't I? All right.
Credit cards first.
Credit cards first. Well, credit cards are like what, $700 on the credit card.
Easy to eliminate that for sure.
And we don't mind carrying that kind of balance because that actually boosts our credit score to have a minimum, 1 to 3%.
1 to 3%.
Right, which is where we're at. So we're actually at 2.8%. So what we're trying to decide is, do we want to try to attack the mortgage first? Do we want to go after the auto loan first? Or do we want to try and go after the personal loan first? Because you've got, here's the largest amount, here's the largest interest rate, but this one up here is the largest payment. So how do we know which debt to eliminate first?
Check.
Yes. Raul says, check the loan efficiency, the debt efficiency. So debt efficiency is when you take the total amount that's owed, right? So let's go ahead and say it's $370,000, and we divide that by the monthly payment of $1,950, and our debt efficiency is 189.74.
That's a good interest rate on the mortgage.
Now let us look at the auto loan. It's $19,500, and we divide that by the monthly payment. Oops, which I typed in wrong. And then the debt efficiency on the auto loan is 56.52. And then we look at the debt efficiency on the personal loan, 14,000, and we divide that by 350, and we get 40. So what do those numbers mean?
I think next week we're going over debt efficiency, right?
No. 2 weeks from now.
2 weeks from now. Ultimately, you want the highest number possible. You want it. The bigger the number, the better.
Right. So debt efficiency, as you can see, because we were dividing here, is a ratio of how much of your money, how much of your monthly budget goes towards servicing the debt. And so that's really what you're looking at here, is how efficient. So a small amount of money with a large payment is going to give us a very low efficiency. And a large amount of money with a small payment is going to give us a higher efficiency. Notice that we don't take into account here the term or the interest, because that is not that, because we're just looking at the efficiency of our money within the monthly budget.
Right. It's really how much leverage we have over this. How much money can you control with the least amount?
Right.
That's really what we're trying to do, because then that will give us the cash flow that we need to affect the most debt.
So the lower the number, the greater the inefficiency. So
absolutely,
40 is the lowest one. So this would be what we would take care of first.
Yeah.
Right? Personal loan first, then the auto loan, and then the mortgage.
Good job, Raul.
So let's go up here. We have $2,110 of cash flow. So how does that all work? Well, we take our line of credit. Here's our line of credit, our $25,000. And what are we going to do? Well, we're going to rack it up with a big portion of this debt, right? So we're going to put, first of all of our monthly expenses are going to go onto our line of credit. This $4,300 worth of expenses, that's going to go onto our line of credit. But then we're going to take our income and we're going to pay all of that off. And then the excess, the $210 that we have in cash flow, we're going to apply as an extra payment each month on this personal loan.
Mm-hmm.
So the personal loan will get a $350 monthly payment, as well as an additional $2,110 payment.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see how long it's going to take to eliminate this loan. So what we would do here is we'd go to our 14,000, right? And we would divide that by our $2,110. And this is going to tell us how many months it'll take to pay this off. 6.631. So let's see if we can take off the highlighter there. So since we don't deal with 6.6351 months, we're just going to say that this is going to take 7 months to pay off. Now, once you've done that, I've got to ask you, what happens to this $350 right here? The $350, what happens when we pay off this debt to that $350? Where does that go?
To the cash flow, says Robert.
Good job.
Yeah, and
Reginald said add it to the cash flow.
yep, Reginald,
Exactly.
good job.
So our expenses actually are decreased by 350, which then increases our cash flow to, to 2,460. Now, when it took us 7 months here to eliminate that, now the next thing we're going to go after is this auto loan. So let's pull that in here. 19,550. I'm trying to think after 7 months of making payments on that. If I don't have my phone here. Let's just use the 19,550, but we know it's going to be less than that. It's probably going to be about $1,000 less than that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But let's take a look at with this. So we take that and we divide it by our cash flow, 2,460. And what do we get? 7.92. Now, so if we were to actually use the calculator, I believe it would be, we would pay it down about 1,000. So let us recalculate. No, hold on, folks. This is why you got to have a calculator handy, right? So I'm able to calculate using a mortgage calculator. I can put the loan in here. So if we start at 19,500 as our principal amount, and it's at what's the interest rate? 3.24 interest rate, and that's 60 months, right? And then we've got our
345.
yeah, approximately. And then now we've spent 7 months, so now we've been paying on it for 15 months. So where we're at after 7 months is 17,384.16. All right. So now, boom.
There you go.
7
months.
months. 7 months. Okay. We want to try to be as accurate as possible, folks. Right? So 7 months. 7 months to take care of the personal loan, 7 months now to take care of the auto payment. What about this 345? What do we do with that? Bueller?
Boom,
Bueller?
boom, 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 boom. That's right.
Add it to the cash flow,
Good job,
baby.
Guys. Cash
All right.
flow. Good job, Reginald. Good job, Rosa.
We're going to subtract 345, right? And so now, oops. What did we do wrong here? I see. Now we're going to be at $3,605 of expenses. Now, here's what we're going to do here is we're going to add our 345. And now we're at $2,805.
Another pay raise. 2,805. That's excellent.
And we're 14 months into this. We're 14 months into helping somebody. Now let's take a look at where we're at now on this loan.
Rosa says, add it to my cash flow.
Nice. Okay. So now here's what we're going to do. I am going to have to share. Let me share. I'm going to share my screen. All right. So if I share my screen, you should be able to see the credit banking calculator when it comes up. Now, this is a program that helps us calculate paying down the mortgage, but we got to plug in all the right numbers. So the mortgage, all right, let's say it was refinanced for 370,000. All right, hold on. I'm just plugging the numbers in, folks. Getting everything in here so we can get this taken care of here. This was a 30-year loan at 2.875 interest rate, and then we got our monthly payments. Okay, so then we've been paying on this now for 14. We've been paying on this for 14 months, right? And then, so that's where the number comes in that I put up here. So I did this math earlier, and I did that to help myself out. So 14 months in to this, so they refinanced $370,000 this month, right? The month of June, right? And so 14 months later, making all these payments, their balance will be at 360,000, right? $360,776. Okay, so this is what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to type this in: $360,776.20, and all of that's at 2.875% interest rate, and we're at 346 months left. And so our payment, it says here, is $1,535.10, but the payment over here says $1,975. Ray, what's the discrepancy?
Oh, that the escrow that takes care of your taxes and your insurance.
Thank you, Ray. I knew you can answer that, Mr. Property Guy. Okay, so we got to put in the right expense, the income and expenses. So over here, so we have a 21% interest on our credit line. Our income is at $6,410 a month. Our total expenses are now at $3,605 a month, giving us $2,805 of cash flow. Perfect. Nice. So let's take a look now, and we'll maximize this. Let's take a look. This is what it's going to be like if this person that we're looking at just makes the minimum payments over the next 28.83 years, right? They will pay off their entire balance plus pay $170,000 in interest.
Man, even dropping their interest rate that low, 2.8, you're still going to pay $170,000.
Right, absolutely. Now, if you were to just take an extra $500 and put that towards the debt, so you make the minimum payment, and then you put an extra $500, you could cut easily almost 10 years off of that, and save yourself $60,000 in interest. Now, if you use the credit banking strategy, as we were talking about, where you're moving your money through your lines of credit, you will pay this off in 9 years and save over $98,000 in interest. Folks, look at that, this green line here. This green line, see why it wiggles, is because you're putting your income and your expenses, your income and your expenses, your income and your expenses, your income and expenses. And this whole thing is paid off in 9 years. This is a 30-year refinance loan, right? We eliminate the personal loan, we eliminate the auto loan, and we eliminate so it takes 14 months to eliminate that. And then it takes 9 years after you've done that to eliminate the home mortgage.
See, and this goes back to what we were talking about, where we're like, hey, cut out the 401k, the IRA, because if you look at that over 9 years, you made $98,000. A penny saved is a penny earned. And if you saved $100,000, that's a return of $10,904 a year. By just doing this. So let's say that you have that $350 a week going towards your retirement plans. Are you making a return of $10,000 on that money every single year?
Right. And then, we don't really cover the advanced credit banking strategy, but this is when you start bringing HELOCs into play, or business lines of credit into play. And then you can save even more money, and you can really grow and accelerate your wealth. Because it's not only, remember, we talked about at the beginning of this, it's about calculating your financial freedom goal. It's not enough to just get out of debt. You've got to have a plan for this. And so not only can we eliminate your debt, but then you can go on to take this money and invest in different, whatever you want to get educated on. I recommend real estate investing because you have the most control over any other investment that's out there. But if you like day trading, or if you like investing in currencies, as long as you're educated and you know what you're doing, I'd even say go ahead and invest in Bitcoin, even though I find that to be kind of confusing. But if you're educated and you know what you're doing, then you can invest in it, and you can use this money, the equity that you've built up. You can use your lines of credit, the cash flow that you've saved, and you can invest this at a greater rate of return than you would get if you had left it in that 401k that you were saying.
Yep.
So this is pretty awesome. Some people says, well, what if you put all your cash flow? What if you just, instead of using your line of credit, put it all into, making extra payments over here? Actually, what you would see is if you put all your extra cash flow over here, you'll pay it down at the same rate as you would here on the business credit side. So, what if we did that? What if we did, change this number to, I don't know if you want to put all your cash flow into it, but let's say you wanted to do that. Look, it even pays off a little bit earlier.
Oh, no. We don't have that much cash flow.
Right here.
Oh, yeah. Right.
It's okay.
Oh, yeah, 2085. Yeah, it is a little bit faster, but you have no buying power.
And you also save money. So people are like, well, why don't I just put all of my money onto my cash, onto that? That seems to make sense. I'm saving a little bit more money. It's paying off in 7.75 years. That sounds pretty good. But here's the problem is that
you lose all your savings.
All of your money is going into this house. You have to live in this house, so you don't have any access to the house's equity.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what's happening. All of your cash gets transferred into equity. And so if anything happens, if there's an emergency, you have no, like you said, no emergency extra cash on hand, nothing to cover that. When you are pushing all of your income for the next 9 years through your lines of credit, your lines of credit are going to grow, right? They're going to grow by 10,000, 25,000. You're going to see these lines of credit grow to larger amounts, and you're going to cultivate relationships with many other lending institutions. So what happens is, somebody who does this is honestly, I think, very foolish, because they have no money left over. If anything goes wrong, and so here,
cash basis mentality, really.
But when something goes wrong and you really need to access your equity, nobody wants to lend it to you, right? Because something's wrong with your credit score, something's wrong with your debt to income ratio, something's wrong with your, what if you lost the job? All of a sudden you're like, well, I need to access my equity. No. So you want to grow your lines of credit because it's other people's money that you can use to pay off your debts, and you can keep your liquidity. And that the way you keep your liquidity is you transfer your cash into available credit. So, by growing your lines of credit gives you access to even more and more money. So this is really, I don't recommend doing this. Some people, they want to take a portion of it, maybe some money, and put it towards that, but still keeping some of your cash flow still on hand. That would be more advisable, right? Because you still need to have, if you're not going to do a credit banking strategy, you've got to have some liquidity on hand, or you're going to get in big trouble.
That is right. That is true. All
right, folks, we've reached really the end of our time here. I'm really grateful that we've been able to go over this amazing credit banking strategy. There's really,
that's exciting, man. 9 years. Plus another 14 months. So just about 10 years, they've gotten their car paid off. They got their loans paid off, their house paid off.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. That is so amazing. And I love seeing how when you start breaking it down and you're looking at the numbers, it's so achievable. Just like the financial freedom goal. How much money do you need to actually retire on? right? Do you need millions of dollars? No, you could actually get the money that you need off of a smaller amount, a fraction
Mm-hmm.
of what the financial advisors say you need to have sitting in retirement accounts. Folks, if you got any benefit out of today, or you want to participate in the future, join the credit banking webinar where Raul and who are some of the other great participants?
Man, we got a lot on here. We got Anthony, we got Dennis, we got Ebony, we got Jared, we got Kiona, we got Maggie, we got Mark, we got Michael, we got Raul, Reginald, Rosa, Tiff,
Reginald was participating a lot. Yeah.
William, and then a couple other ones, that were on there.
I'm grateful that you guys are along for the ride. Now, listen, if you want to go over a free 30-minute consultation with us, and we'll go over your numbers, much like we did here, you're more than welcome to do that. You have to wiseguysandties.com/credit-banking. And this is for webinars that are on these Tuesday nights here that are going to be here on the Wise Guys and Ties YouTube channel from now on. This is pretty exciting. So if you're here on the Wise Guys and Ties YouTube channel, make sure you like and subscribe. If you think this is valuable stuff, ring that bell so that you get notified when we go live, so you can participate in the YouTube channel, or even better yet, come join us in the webinar, and then you'll get able to ask questions directly of Ray and I and participate in the webinar. This is fun stuff. But folks, if you want to participate and have us go over your numbers, just scroll down on the form and fill out the information. Right now, we don't contact you unless you want us to, and we don't share any of your identifying information or personal information that's out there. We just use the raw numbers each and every week so that we can practice the credit banking strategy and get better and better. Because when we practice it, even working right here as we do on these masterminds on the case study, it gives us confidence to be able to do it in real life with our own finances. Folks, I want to thank you so much again for being here. On behalf of myself, Mr. Ray Fleming, I want to say good night and God bless you folks.